Tzor shichavi libo v'chol masov. Kulam leida as Hashem baruch hu b'levad. A person's mind, one's emotion, and all your actions should be directed with one objective: to acknowledge Hashem, but for the sake of acknowledging God and to know God. That's the only purpose. I'll give you an example. You go and you study any area of science. When you study that science and you come upon many things, knowledge, and it's amazing, and it's enlightening, and it's very expansive, how should you be touched? It's unbelievable what kind of world God created. We know today with science and with all the modern technology, what we've come upon, it can't be the human faculty can't fathom the capabilities of certain things that we have today. For instance, you could put millions of pieces of information on a chip, which is no larger than your fingernail. Millions and millions of pieces of information. Is it possible? But it's a reality. The human brain doesn't have that capacity. So what the computer could compute and what we're able to store, it goes beyond our capacity. If you believe in God and the world, every aspect of existence functions as it does, because God wills that you function in that capacity. You have the laws of nature. You have the natural, you have the unnatural, you have the supernatural, you have terrestrial, you have celestial, you have the galaxies, this is all, and it's all simultaneously, there's a balance. And God is orchestrating all this and willing all this, even if you don't have the details. But the more we come upon, the more we're amazed about who God is. I'll give you an example. I always mention Rav Moshe Feinstein, Zech Tzadok Levrocha, blessed memory. If you look at him, he was a little man, maybe 5 feet tall. He looked like an observant Jew, an older person, but he could look like anyone with that profile. But if you would read about him and read his responsa and the amount of knowledge he had and the way the instant recall he had of an unlimited amount of knowledge, you'd be beyond the word impressed, amazed, the expression, be blown away. You couldn't be imagined that a person has that capacity. And he's only of recent times. There were people who surpassed him endlessly over. You know, there was a famous handwriting expert, and they showed him the handwriting of the Rambam Maimonides, and they showed him the handwriting of Einstein. A handwriting expert has nothing to do with being able to understand the language. From the way the curvatures and whatever it is, he's able to understand, has an idea of who wrote that, whose expression is that. Einstein, no, father of real relativity, the atom bomb. You know what he said? He says, when he looked at the handwriting of Rambam, then at Einstein, he says, it's the equivalent of comparing a monkey to a human being. Could you imagine? Rambam is identified among his own class as the greatest of the authors. We're talking about among giants, he was considered the giant of giants in his time. When Rambam was a doctor, he was a philosopher, he was an astronomer. And he was a Talmudic sage. And among the sages, he was seen as the sage of the sages. And you're amazed. And Rambam, when he studied science, he studied medicine, whatever he studied, what did he see? He saw the hand of God in every aspect of this existence. Because his mind was trained, and his emotion and his belief, everything was rooted in who he was. Who was he? He was that devout, believing Jew who had a capacity, which very few people had his capacity in his era. They speak about Rashi. Rashi is known as the commentator of one of a kind. You speak to people about Rashi. People on the Upper East Side, not they've ever studied his commentary. They said Rashi came from France, and you know what he was? He was a winemaker. And, you know, and then he wore pantaloons, and he spoke French. His contemporaries write about his commentary. He wrote on everything, the Torah, the written, the oral. And they say without his commentary, you could not understand, we would not understand the Torah. That's how great he was. And any question they ask on his commentary, the only reason why they ask it is because they fully don't, even his own contemporaries don't fully grasp what he's writing. That's how great Rashi was. So if you have an appreciation for intellect and understand who the man was, you're amazed. You can't believe that such a man ever walked the face of the earth. And you're amazed. If you're amazed with Rashi and you have an inkling of what this existence is, the genius of every detail, even a granule of sand. I once read an article not long ago, maybe a year or two ago, about deserts. How does land become arid? So it's interesting. The moisture in the air, when it touches a granule of dust, somehow it attaches itself and it goes up, it comes down, and it has to do with the cycle of rain. So the less it rains and the land is not irrigated, the more arid it becomes. Because there's less soil for it to attach itself to. So in the cycle of evaporation, the moisture does not go up and doesn't come down. It's a vicious cycle in the negative. We're talking about, it's not to be believed, the genius that lies within nature. What lies within a human being? The circulatory system, the digestive system. There was a podcast, which I listened to maybe 6 months ago, on the colon and the digestive system. There's one system in the body, it's independent of all other systems. It functions almost independent of the brain even. Why? And it's something, if the location where the waste gathers and the food is broken down, everything in the body is permeable. Things go through the walls. If that area in the body, if it's not sealed, the toxins that exist within the broken down waste, a person would die instantaneously. The bacteria, we speak about the gut. We're talking about the gut. The bacteria that's in the gut is very important bacteria. If you have healthy bacteria, it breaks down the food. But if that bacteria would ever go into the bloodstream, you would die. Within the gut, it's invaluable. It breaks the food down that you're able to benefit from all. So certain things go out and enter into the bloodstream, and the body's a beneficiary. Other things, if it will go out, a person could not survive. You'd be poisoned within a short period of time. And these are people who are not believers. They're amazed of the genius of the human body, how it functions. And these are people, doctors, scientists working on this for the past 50, 60 years. All kinds of data on the most advanced level. And they're amazed. So if the perspective is you want to get a glimpse of God, and you're looking to see where God is and who is he? So if your focus is that, you'll be amazed. So the emotion, the perspective, the heart, the mindset is, whatever we do, it's to understand who God is. And it's all there. You have the Hope Diamond. If you don't have any understanding what a diamond is, it looks like a rock, a piece of glass. But if you have an understand what a diamond is, you have a background, and being able to make that, do that analysis, that evaluation, you have the loop, and you can look at the diamond in the right light, you'd be amazed of what that diamond is. Not that I have any understanding of what diamonds are. Doesn't make a difference. So the Rambam says, a person must direct his emotion, his mind, and all your actions, only for the sake of knowing God better. You know, a person spends $100,000 to go on a safari in Africa. He said, "What do you spend all that money?" Well, you know, you could see it on a video. When you see it in real time, you understand it differently. It's a different experience because I want to know about those species. I want to get the smell and the feel of the lion, of of its habitat. So you mean you spent all that money? You know something? It's worth it to know that, and the takeaway of that. It's all worth it. The Rambam says, your mind, your emotion, and all your actions, the emphasis should be Leidas Hashem Baruch Hu, only for that purpose, to get to know God better, to see God. And God is there. It's obvious He's there, but you have to notice Him. And if you look, you notice. V'yeshifto v'komo v'dibur hakodu umazeh hadover. And whatever we do, when we sit, when we stand, when we speak, it all should be with this objective. Same objective. Ketzad gives an example. When you engage in a negotiation, a business transaction, or yasim malocha, litos, or you work, you offer some kind of service to be paid. Lo yeba libo likbots mamiluvad. The objective is not that you should amass money. That should not be the only objective. Elo yasid dvar me'eler kedei sheyimtzo dvarim sheba'aguf tzorch lahem. It should be with a purpose, to be able to provide for your body, which the body needs, to provide the amenities of life, which is what? Me'achid u'shtiya, to provide food and drink, the yeshiva's bias, that you should have a residence to protect your physicality, u'nesisisha, to be able to get married. These are all basic fundamentals of what a human being is all about. To live as a person who's responsible for his life. That should be the objective. And when you eat and drink, and you cohabit, it's the most physical, mundane act. Lo yosib belibo lasus dvar me'elu kedei lehonus bilvad. It should not be purely for the sake of pleasure. I'm eating because I enjoy eating. I drink because I enjoy drinking. I cohabit. It's only because it's a pleasurable act. Because if that's the objective, I just want to enjoy life and have that, you're only going to eat things which are sweet and tasty to the palate. But very often you have to eat other things which are not. But if you condition yourself, your palate is only conditioned to eat foods which are only, and your taste buds which are pleasant to you, what happens? Vivo kedei lehonos. The main reason why you should eat, drink, or do anything is for the sake of your health, to maintain yourself, that you should be a functional human being. It's okay you choose foods that you enjoy, but what is the main reason why you're eating? You're eating to live. You're not living to eat. That's what it's all about. An animal, why does it eat? Whatever an animal does, it does due to it's purely its DNA dictates its function. An animal at certain moments hunts and goes out and brings back whatever its food is. Does it eat for pleasure? When that goes off in its brain that it must go out to eat, it eats. And it eats certain foods. It doesn't eat other foods. And it eats to a certain point, not beyond that point. Therefore, you should not eat only something which the palate enjoys, like a dog and like a donkey. Dvorim leguf. You eat something which is beneficial for the body, whether it's bitter or sweet, doesn't make a difference. You should not eat anything which is detrimental, has a negative effect on your body, although for the moment, when you taste it, it's pleasurable. I'll give you an example. A person has gastritis. And he knows whenever he eats spicy foods, he suffers tremendously. But when he eats it, he enjoys it. A half an hour passes, he feels the effects. And the man says, his wife says to him, we go through this every day. You eat it, you enjoy it, then you're up here all night with acid issues, with acid reflux. Why don't you take control of yourself and only eat what's bland food? You'll have the same value, the same health, although it's not as pleasurable, but you're not going to have all these negative effects. So it should not be something which is detrimental to you. It does not be life-threatening. Person is naturally, his besorocham, he's like a very heated person. Lo yochal boser v'lo dvash. He's telling you as a doctor. He should not eat meat, should not eat honey, have honey, and should not drink wine. Okay? Because in terms of his metabolism, the way it works, it'll affect him negatively. As Shlomo says in Proverbs, you should eat something which is sweet, which is beneficial very often. You drink this other type of drink, which is an extract of some kind of vegetable. Api shehu mar, although it's bitter. Why do I eat and drink? It's only because it's beneficial. It's based on the medical recommendations. That's why you're eating. She should be healthy and you should function fully. That's the key in life. Health is be fully functional and be with no reversals in health. Secure. A person cannot live without eating and drinking. You have to eat sufficiently, you have to drink sufficiently. And if you don't, ultimately there's going to be a consequence. When you cohabit, it should be the degree, because in terms of expending the semen for your body, it's a known fact. If you ever speak to people who suffer from prostatitis, very often, because the person does not cohabit sufficiently, it causes an infection, and that infection is called prostatitis. It's an infection in the prostate. But if a person expels the semen, which has to do with it has to do with that, it doesn't develop. So that's expelling the semen. We're not talking wasting a seed. It's only in the conventional way, the way one expels it from the body, or for the sake of having children. Person doesn't engage in sexual relations whenever he has a desire. That's not That's not the signal, because you feel like it. Only when you feel it's necessary. It's necessary. Like one has to live based on medical recommendations. You have to grab it so often, so for the sake of remaining healthy, or for the sake of having children. Ravid, which is a commentary on the Rambam, very often he disagrees, or he elucidates the Rambam. His name is, it's an acronym, Rav Avram ben David. That's the Ravid. He writes, and it's explicit in Torah, that a husband has a conjugal obligation to his wife. And if a man denies his wife the conjugal obligation, it's a basis for divorce. Because it's something the woman expects, and it's a necessity to maintain that relationship. That if he's able to provide it, he has to provide it, unless she's willing to waive it. Otherwise, he has an obligation. So he writes, although the Rambam writes, you should engage in cohabitation for the sake of health and for the sake of having children. But he says the Rambam should have also added, but he's not disagreeing, also to fulfill your conjugal obligation. In addition to that, Hamanig atzmo al pi harufur, a person who maintains his lifestyle based on what's healthy and stays away from what's unhealthy. You eat to be healthy, you drink to be healthy, you exercise to be healthy. Whatever you do, it's with one intent, that you be fully functional, that what God gave you, you're maintaining it in a responsible way. Im soma libo shia kogufa ve'vorov shleimin bilvad. If he has that focus, he should be healthy, functional, vibrant, with stamina. Shilo bonim osim malachto, and he has children which assume responsibilities within his own area of work. Va'melin l'tzorcho, and they work and they toil for him. Einzu derech tova. That's not, it's off. You're doing everything right, but you're missing the main part of the equation. Why must I be healthy? Get back. Why must I live? Why do I live? Why does God endow me with life? Just to be healthy, just to maintain a business? That I have children, to hold my hand when I'm in my old age, and when I become infirm, they should be able to compensate what I can't do. Is that why God gives you children? Or it's beyond that? It may be a byproduct of having children, but that's not why you have children. You want your body should be complete and strong and vibrant. That your body should be functional and not distracted, to be able to internalize God's being, God's existence. I'll give you an example. A person's exhausted, you're very tired. And the Gemara talks about that. And you hear somebody say something, and you say to the person, could you repeat what I said? He's like in a semi-sleeping. He could repeat what you said. But if it takes any level of understanding or reasoning, he's too tired. His mind is not at that level to be able to process what he could repeat. But processing what was said in terms of takeaway or a depth of understanding, not. Because his mind, as you say, it's too shallow. In this state, it's too shallow. If a person himself doesn't have the physical ability, energy-wise, physically-wise, not to be distracted, you're not able to grasp something at that level that you're meant to grasp it, to understand it. I'll give you an example. A person's lazy and doesn't apply himself. You can figure it out if you apply yourself. A person says, it's not worth it. It's not worth the effort. But if you have the ability and you don't apply yourself, and that information, if you has great value, and you don't, you're totally irresponsible. Person doesn't have the capacity, okay, it's one thing. As much as he probably can't understand, but if you have the ability And it's just a question of application, toiling and applying yourself to doing the analysis, and you don't, that person is what? He fell short of what he should be. And there's a claim against him. It is impossible to understand and to reflect the chochmos in any area of wisdom. We spoke about this yesterday, and you're hungry. Hungry means the hunger is gnawing at you. V'chole, or you're not well, you're ill, or you have some kind of pain. An ongoing pain, which is a distraction. That infringes on your focus. And what should the objective of having a son? Because you never know what that son may develop into. He may develop into be a great Torah sage, which is the ultimate level. A person who follows this path with this perspective, Ovi Hashem Tomid. I'll give you an example. A person goes into basic training. Talking to Larry. Well, he was in basic training. Never left Fort Dix, but he was in basic training. And why is a person put through basic training? Because in the eventuality, if you have to go out to fight, you're ready, trained. What happens if you were trained and they never sent you overseas? You were never on a battlefield. So he said, so futile. Why did they train me? They trained you in the eventuality. If you should have to be on the battlefield, you should be prepared for battle. So when you train, what do you train? You train like you're in real time. In the eventuality, if you have to confront the enemy and you should be the victor, you should know exactly how to destroy the enemy. Are you going to have that special son? Who knows? Who's going to be that Torah sage? Are you going to have that ability to come upon understanding whatever it may be? You don't know. But we have to provide for our bodies, which may have that capacity, that in case we come upon certain things, we should be able to process them and have the focus and not be distracted due to deficiencies, which we created ourselves by being negligent and irresponsible to how we took care of our bodies and our minds. Who do you think you're going to be? You have no idea what you're going to be. You know, the King Solomon says, the wisest man, he says, I envy the dead, but not the living. I mean, how do you envy a dead? One person dies, it's over. He says, what is it analogous to? You know, you used to see when they would christen a ship, right? I'm not sure if you ever saw christening. I saw it years ago, you know, on television. They had a picture christening a ship, and there were bands and speeches, and they take a bottle of champagne and they break it on the hull of the ship, and everybody cheers, and the ship pulls out from port, goes out to the sea. Everybody's excited. The question is, does it come back? That's the question. May not come back. How many ships go out and they don't come back? A child is born. Everybody's excited. A newborn child. He has his life before him. But do you understand how this child's life is going to evolve and manifest itself and what he's going to become? You now know. At the end of one's life, and you see the success, the accomplishment, now you know what that life was worth. But initially, you don't know how that life's going to unfold and develop. What's going to become of that human being. So King Solomon says, I envy those who died, because now I understand how they developed, how they invested their lives, and what the value was. When at the beginning of one's life, you have no idea where it's going, but you're all excited. That's exactly what he's saying. You have to prepare and be in a state always to maximize. If it is, you'll be there. You may not be there, because you're not the one. Doesn't make a difference. But your responsibility as a human being, as a God's creation, to take care of it, because in case you have to be called upon, and that's meant to be your destiny, You should be able to meet that destiny that's meant to be your destiny. Many years ago, going back maybe almost 60 years ago, I'd say about 57 years ago, a certain young man comes to Baltimore to study in the yeshiva, came from Philadelphia, came from a very wealthy family, but they didn't live outwardly as if they were wealthy, but it was known they were a real estate family and they were observant. And he was second generation American. The grandfather was from Europe. They must have come over in the early part of the 20th century. And this person today is, I'd say about 79. This person, he comes to the yeshiva. He already graduated college, and he was only 20. And he was in the second year of law school, Temple University in Philadelphia. Very talented. He played the accordion, and he had a musical ear. And he comes to yeshiva. Why? He wants to study. He wants to know how to learn. This person never finished law school. He was talented. You can't imagine how talented he was. But it was the wrong decision not to finish up his education and not really to go out and be a lawyer or be whatever it was. And he never made anything of his life, never finished his law degree. And till today, he never got married. Never, totally normal person. I mean, he's not unstable, but evidently he had an issue. And he had a sense of humor and this and that. But as they say, he didn't bite the bullet. He was always off a little bit. Rather than being on mark, he always missed the target. Maybe intentionally. Of course, he had certain insecurities. Whatever the reason is, doesn't make a difference. But you always have to study because you never know where you're going to be.